Welcome to the Trellix Spotlight series. My name is Nick, and I will be your host. Today's session will focus on Trellix EPO and Trellix XConsole, the way forward. This webinar will be recorded. If you prefer not to participate in the recorded session, please feel free to disconnect at this time. A link to today's recorded presentation will be emailed to all registered attendees. This webinar is a brief overview covering common use cases and scenarios regarding this topic. It is not intended to be all-encompassing. If assistance is needed, please contact Trellix Technical Support. If you have questions during the webinar, please type them in the Q&A window. This webinar may run longer or shorter based on your participation, and we recommend asking as many questions as you can to make the most of this series. If the Q&A window is not displayed, click the tab at the bottom of your session window and click on the Q&A icon. We will answer the questions during the final section of this webinar. If you experience any audio issues during the webcast, please drop and attempt to reconnect. Our first presenter today is Megha Shukla. Megha handles all the product marketing initiatives for Trellix ePolicy Orchestrator, Trellix Cloud Advisory, and Trellix Cloud Workload Security products. Formerly, she had been involved with handling competitive intelligence, product marketing, product management, and business development functions for data center and storage products. Our second presenter today is Hitesh Mengnani. Hitesh leads the product management for platform products in the EPO SaaS suite of products. He's responsible for the management consoles that support evolution of EPP, DLP, and the encryption set of products. He also focuses on the XDR strategy for Trellix. He has close to 20 years of experience and has worked across many engineering and product function leadership roles. Prior to this, he worked in identity management portfolio and many products in the storage domain. Ladies and gentlemen, Megha and Hitesh.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you all for giving us your time of the day today. To begin with, let's have a quick look at the agenda. Now, we'll begin with the session with the gathering and understanding of the security landscape as of today, followed by some of the key challenges faced by security practitioners and what is required to address them. We'll then review how Trellix EPO can add value to your organization, a little about the history of the list of features of Trellix EPO, and the different flavors offered for Trellix EPO. This would be followed by a little slide on the portfolio evolution of Trellix EPO SaaS and how you can custom build your own security posture with the products and offerings from Trellix EPO. The most important part of this particular webinar, the most important segment of this webinar is the roadmap and the focus areas for Trellix EPO, which will then come next. This would then be followed by a little bit of a session on Trellix XConsole. I'm pretty sure you would have heard about Trellix XConsole. Let's understand the thought process behind it and how Trellix EPO will fit into the equation. This would also be followed by a demo of XConsole. We'll then end the session with a Q&A segment to ensure we address any questions that you may have for us. Let's have a quick look at the security landscape in 2023. Now, what is happening? We all know that the attack surface has expanded, and with the expanded attack surface, there is a need to secure assets across the enterprise infrastructure, which could include and will be impacted by the cloud adoption, IT-IoT convergence, remote working, and third-party infrastructure integration. Now, if not addressed properly, this will make organizations more vulnerable to attacks. The need of the hour is to look for newer approaches to monitor, detect, and respond to a wider set of risk. Now, the demand for new technologies and services is on the rise. The driving force behind this is the aspiration for better efficiency and experience. Now, few of these include cloud security and threat intel to help tackle new vulnerabilities and the risk arising from its exposure. Vendor consolidation is another ask of the hour. It is to ensure that a single platform for all the security function can be leveraged from. Convergence is the name of the game as a measure to ensure better overall security. By bringing together various security functions into a single platform, licensing options can be implemented to offer better management experience and investment for both customers as well as vendors. Moving on, what are some of the key challenges faced by security practitioners as of today? What is impacting the operational efficiency of security practitioners? Demand for technologies that can help create a robust hybrid and remote work environment are here to stay. However, for these models and technologies to work, quick deployment, ease of management, and last but not the least, quick return on investment are desired. There's an increase in demand for technologies today. Zero trust protection for remote and hybrid workers is one such example. While the transition to such technologies might seem inevitable, what is something that we need to consider is the level of preparedness for this transition and its impact on existing infrastructure. Real-time remediation is desired. This is irrespective of the evolved attack surface. Now, what we need to ensure is this particular resolution that is offered is proactive rather than reactive, which remains yet another challenge. Moving on, when it comes to security posture, what exactly is needed? Businesses have been transforming even more so in the years gone by. Shifts in customers' demand and behaviors have advanced the creation and adoption of digital business models, and there is a need for security to support this transformation and not slow it down. At the heart of vendor consolidation, multiple tools being used, need for customized security posture to fulfill organizations' need is centralized management to ensure one can benefit from ease of management and full visibility of all the organization's asset to ensure that we have a secure posture by the end of the day. We have to make sure that we make a more effective use of all the resources, old and new, personals and technologies. This is something which is very much required. Now, ultimate focus should be on driving efficient outcomes and staying ahead of the curve. Migrating security infrastructure to cloud, reducing the gap between detection and remediation are all examples of how we can drive these efficient outcomes. Now, amidst all of this, how exactly can Trellix EPO add value? We are looking with Trellix EPO, we are looking at a centralized place of management for all your devices and diverse platforms. It brings together all of these into one single console. We are looking at a particular console which is open and integrated. You can bring together all your Trellix products as well as supported third-party partner products or solutions. It's customizable. It's customizable to a level wherein you can custom build your dashboards and reports per user. That's the level of granularity that we are offering with Trellix EPO. It's instantaneous. You can leverage from our inbuilt threat intel, which comes in the form of TIE and ATP intel. Moving on, we can have a quick look about the history of Trellix EPO, how its features have evolved over the course of a year. And for this, I'll pass over the screen to Hitesh, who will share his valuable insights with us. Over to you, Hitesh.
Thank you, Megha. Really appreciate bringing the problem context and where EPO strengths have been. So just taking over from where Megha was, this is a slide which just summarizes what EPO has gone through. It's been quite a long journey. And definitely we are not slowing down. We are accelerating further ahead. And this is the intent that we are having this conversation today. For me to be able to tell you what is it that lies ahead. I don't intend to go through every line item on this slide, but quick thing to call out was the major turn of events that started happening after 2018. And that's the time where we had the EPO SaaS starting to evolve with the name of Envision EPO. Ever since then, the EPO has been having both SaaS as well as the on-prem flavors of the product. So this is where the journey evolved, and we are at a junction where it is going to further evolve, and that is something that I will explain once I come to the latter part of the webinar. So like I was saying, EPO SaaS is one way in which you can adopt the product. It's definitely the lighter and the easier way where you can focus on your own security alone and not bother about the infrastructure. But if you need to use the on-prem model of it, or if you need a in-between model, which is like using the EPO on-prem product on top of the public cloud providers, basically using their infrastructure as a service. That also can be done. We do certify it on AWS as well as Google Cloud, and there is no limit on the public cloud infrastructure that you are intend to use. So these are all the options that we can use for using EPO. Now, focusing again on SaaS, it is an evolving journey on that front. It was not on par with on-prem when we launched the product. It was very minimal. So when we just came with the product, obviously we were starting with the endpoint story. 2019, 2020 was the phase where the ENS or the endpoint pretty much came on par between on-prem and EPO SaaS. However, there were other products where the delivery pace of on-prem was still higher, whereas the EPO SaaS did not even have those. And that's what it evolved from 2020 onwards. So we started the data protection dimensions of it. We also came over to have the other dimension of giving more intel. This is something that was a completely new capability that we provided in context of Trellix Insights. This was added for SaaS as well as for on-prem. So on-prem did get all the bigger improvements that we have been giving. It's not that it has been left behind. So that is something that was the evolution from an intel perspective, threat intel coming through Trellix Insights. Now, in the last couple of years, 2 or 3 years, we have from 2021 over to 2023, we have also started focusing on the encryption portfolio and other products. So by that, what I mean is native encryption, the file and removable media protection, and then the device encryption, which is also planned to come out. So we added M&E and FRP in the last 2 years, and FRP still has more evolution to become completely on par. And the device encryption is slated to come somewhere in middle of 2023. The other product which does get some attention from our existing customers is application control. This is also something that is in the early phases. We are planning for it also to come over in the latter half of this year. So that's the overall portfolio evolution from an EPO SaaS perspective when we are comparing it with on-prem. Obviously, there are also feature level things which are not 100% on par, and those things also have evolved, and I will talk about those in the coming slides. Moving over to a different dimension before we get into the roadmap. So roughly 2 years back, we introduced the API gateway, which brought in all the APIs across product lines to be available through one single gateway interface, which means that you don't have to develop your own customizations or your own extensions to our product through different mechanisms when you're thinking of different products. All the products that are part of API Gateway provide the same interface for you to be able to build that. And that is powered by the developer portal. So you have the ability to look at what APIs are there, even test them before you start consuming them for your own solution. So you could just click and test what is it that this API does, check its output within the developer portal, and then you are completely clear so that you can take it on to implementation. On top of these two technologies is another thing that we have built, which is called Trellix Marketplace. The intent of this was to go to the levels of third-party integrations, which was always present in the on-prem. We had a huge set of third-party integrations. Now SaaS is evolving with the Trellix Marketplace. This is a framework which allows our technology partners to publish their own applications so that the integrations with Trellix-centered products can be consumed with very minimal effort. By that, what I mean is that if, let's say that you have a need to use a Simplify product, then what you can do is get onto the marketplace, just search for that app and configure it from there itself. So it will be configured in the initial trial phase, and then you can reach out to the third party organization to really buy the product if you really would love to continue with the integrated experience. So just a click that enables third-party integrations within EDR, within EPO, and the other products that will come on board as we move along. Moving over, we are now double clicking into EPO more, the roadmap essentially, and what is it that we are intending to focus on. So with this year, there are three core areas in which the EPO product will focus on. It will be an evolution that it goes through by merging with XConsole. I will talk about XConsole briefly at the last part of this webinar. We definitely intend to cover XConsole in a bigger depth in the upcoming webinars. But today, we will focus only on what is it that EPO does in the XConsole future. So EPO will be part of that. And the biggest change that happens from an EPO user perspective is the unified experience further, and also the dimension of it evolving from a usability perspective. Basically, we intend to make the product behaviors, its information flows, oriented to a persona. What that means is that if you are a person who is oriented towards the compliance of your environment, then you start seeing at that as your starting point. When you log in, you move ahead with that flow on that experience from a compliance perspective, natural clicks that you would need to make sure that your compliance is on par. And if you're an analyst, then it will be that set of flow. So that's how we are thinking when we are making XConsole evolution with EPO. Then the other dimension is the hybrid evolution. So we've always had a lot of our customers on-prem, many are moving, but the base is still quite significant. And we value this partnership that you've been having with us. We value the time that you've spent with us, and we would like you to continue with us even further ahead by adopting in a hybrid mode if you are not intending to go full throttle SaaS. By that, what I mean is it's possible that you want to remain on-prem because you need certain aspects of the on-prem capability set, or you have specific environments like the air-gap networks, which require you to remain on-prem in those fragments or in those sections of your deployment. That being the case, we thought that a hybrid evolution, which means that the SaaS capabilities should be available for an on-prem deployed product. So you do all your today's capabilities and the product capabilities that will continue to be delivered on the on-prem. For example, the evolution of the endpoints, those things you can continue to use on the on-prem, but then the next gen capabilities like XDR, we would like that you should be able to consume those while your predominant deployment remains on-prem. So basically, your investigations and correlations, which XDR will help you in protecting your environment, will be done on the on-prem event data. And also, an on-prem managed asset should be able to get a response for a threat event from the SaaS console itself. If you are, say, in the middle of an investigation, you realize that it is urgent for you to respond from there itself, you should not need to go to that on-prem managed server. So that is just the brief of the hybrid. The hybrid is a very big story that will evolve in many other dimensions. Some of it I will cover in the roadmap details as well. The enhanced orchestration is basically the core EPO capabilities, which evolve either from the perspective of meeting the needs of where the market is heading, or also from the perspective of keeping the SaaS pretty much on par with the on-prem. So that's what this set is. And I think these individual line items that we have on this page, we can cover them in the roadmap section, roadmap slide itself. Moving over to the roadmap slide, and before I talk in detail over here, let me just give a quick understanding of how concrete does this look. By that, what I mean is you see that there are three verticals that we have in this slide. One is the recent, which is already delivered, and that's something that is in product to be usable by the customers. Then there is coming soon, which is where the confidence is higher. And by that, I mean that this is almost in motion or halfway through already, and we are pretty close to delivering it. And then comes the exploring, and these things are expected to churn if a real world situation happens, if there are other things that come and take our priority. So these things could shift out beyond the horizon that is mentioned, or go for a longer delivery outlook as well. So that's where the exploring should be seen from. So I mean, this is usually a, a roadmap disclaimer that we follow on with. This slide is followed on with. That's what I explained right now. Now, with that, let's look at what is it that we've delivered, and what we've delivered in the recent time frame from the perspective of late part of 2022 are these. So we ensured that the products that are coming together with FireEye and McAfee Enterprise are having a seamless console switching experience and also a single unified identity. This is a SaaS specific item. What that means is that you will be able to log in through your own username, password, and be able to use these core products, Helix, EDR, and EPO in the same entitled tenancy, and be able to switch between these consoles. This is just the start of it. And again, there is an evolving journey in this space. I'll just move over to this particular line item horizontally across the timelines. What we are right now working is a better experience from that perspective. By that, what I mean is that the look and feel of these products should be similar. What we are also doing is that we are bringing the products together from a top navigation bar. So you will have the same place to go for the menu items. You will have same place to look at the core top level navigation. So that helps it become a little intuitive, but that's again the tip of the iceberg. We further evolve in the coming quarters within this year to transform the experience to make it persona centered. And for that, we will be fusing a lot of things. So we have dashboarding within Helix, we have dashboarding within EPO. We intend to bring them to a common plane. So you have one single unified dashboard where all the product experiences are brought together, and you are able to see the data in a single place itself across product lines. And you should also be able to pivot to the right place for your next natural set of actions. If you are seeing it a threat and you need to respond to it, within a click, you should be able to reach a place where you should be able to respond. That is the intent of the dashboarding transformation. So we will take it to the next level of what you see in EPO with the newer dashboarding. So basically, this is one of the evolution that comes with XConsole. Now, that is obviously centered using personas, which will be across the product lines. Global personas is what I prefer to call them. Moving over to the next set of capabilities. So Azure AD is something that we delivered as a part one in the latter half of last year. And what we delivered was sync of user groups, users and groups, which allowed LDAP browsing and user-based policy rules. This is quite powerful because you can actually use the product to deliver the policies based on the context from which the user is coming. If his context changes, if his role changes, he moves to a new function, the newer policy automatically applies. So that is the advantage of the integration with Azure AD from that dimension. And obviously, we intend to make it complete by also adding the device sync in just a couple of months from now, as shown in the coming soon vertical. Then moving over, version management was introduced in late last year. So from here on, you will start seeing version branches of the endpoint product so that you can deploy and roll back to the right versions to various segments of your organizations. You'll probably be having a structure where you have early adopter sections in your organization. You might have a section which is a section of the org which is where you want to go very late so that they are the most safer and most secured set of endpoints or servers. So you could come to this. This was an existing capability in EPO on-prem, but not exactly the same as we are doing it in SaaS. We've done a simplified version of it, which I will show in the a few slides later on how it looks over there. We added some APIs oriented towards the managed service providers related to management of the credentials for the APIs. Then there was a improvement that was done from a UI perspective. Basically, we ensured that the data is cached beforehand by the UI so that its experience is more performant. But that's not the only thing that we intend to do with the performance improvements. There is a whole set of further backend service changes which is in motion, some of which is coming by March itself. So that's something that you should realize if you're already using SaaS, that the product will start becoming more and more performant, and there are some more improvements that will happen even further down the lane after March 2023. Then moving over to other things that are there in the coming soon. The unified agent is a big change that we will be working on, and the Q2 deliverable, the early Q2 deliverable, is the first set product forensics capabilities that are coming to the EPO product from HX, which is a FireEye product. Its forensic strengths have been proven in the industry, and those capabilities get added for you to use. Obviously, this requires an up level of your entitlement. So you'll have to reach out to see if your current product entitles you. If not, you might need to buy a higher SKU for that. This capability evolves further with the moving ahead and the late year, and we will see the unified agent becoming lighter and more capable as we unify the technologies more and more going forward. API improvements, there is the API scope, again, the credentials that we create, we are bringing that to a self-service capability where direct customers can create multiple credentials, give it off to their vendors who are managing their environments if they are creating more solutions. So you can say, hey, this particular vendor can do only these set of APIs and create such a solution. So that is what the API improvement will help you do. Already covered Azure AD, so I will move ahead of Azure AD. Certifications, SOC 2 Type 2, we are pretty close to achieving that certification. We have been running at that level for the last 6 to 8 months. Right now, we are triggering a third-party assessment, which will just be assessing the artifacts that we've created, and hopefully everything will be a test to pass from their perspective, and we will get the certification within March. FedRAMP is another area which we have focused on. We were FedRAMP moderate. We are moving to IL5, which is the FedRAMP high certification, and that is happening very soon. Okay, before we get into the next set of capabilities, which is in the exploring segment, I would just want to highlight that we do not have explicitly timeline conduct called out on these, as you can see, the augment functionalities and particularly the hybrid one too. What that means is that these are not concrete items from a timeline perspective. You should see them as an intent. Many of these, and largely on the hybrid evolution set, the work will start very late this year, which means that they're likely to even be delivering in the next early year timeframe. Then in the exploring, what I have not covered is product integrations. Like I said, the device encryption and app control are in focus for this year, mid to latter half. Then certain capabilities on EPO front, which is addition of more APIs from the perspective of audit events. Then we are also looking at usability improvements of on-prem. We are also looking at the single sign-on that we provide with SAML to evolve so that you can manage your roles from your identity provider side itself. And this will be a capability that will come on both on-prem as well as SaaS. Then the hybrid evolution, like I explained, is more about getting things managed in SaaS, which are primarily in control from your on-prem perspective, whether it is air-gap network reason that you need that, or whether it is capabilities which are not usable without an on-prem presence like the rogue system detection. So the hybrid will help us cater to these capabilities, but we also intend to evolve hybrid so that the adoption of pure SaaS next-gen capabilities like XDR from Trellix can be smoother. With this, I'm done with the roadmap, and we will move to quickly look at what exactly we did in the year of 2022. I already covered it in the recently delivered capabilities in the roadmap slide. So we just move ahead and quickly show you screenshots of what we have in the product. So as you're ready, like I said, policy rules, which will help you deliver policies based on user context. I am a user who was looking at the financial data from a vendor billing perspective. I'm moving to payroll. So maybe there are stricter policies that you apply for payroll section of the finance department. You could really configure those dimensions. And if a user moved, automatically their stricter set of policies will apply to that user. Then endpoint version management. So like I spoke about, this is more of a parity between on-prem and SaaS, but we don't intend to do it exactly as is. For the customers who are joining us from an on-prem context, who already have on-prem deployments, they are using the endpoint version management capability, which allows them to put various versions of product in branches which are oriented from a previous or a next and a current branch, which allows them to have various deployment sets that the previous ones will remain on critical user group environments. The next gen ones, the next set will be on test environments or the ones where we are okay to have early adopting user base. And that is the core thought process. The on-prem world also allowed managing the server-side capabilities, but the server-side capabilities is something that is now owned and managed by Trellix, so you don't have to worry about that. And that is the reason we've simplified it. Now we give you branches month over a month for the last 12 months, and you can say that this particular branch points to the critical user group. I want the oldest set, which is, let's say, if you were in the month of June, the January set of product binaries to go into to remain into your execs, and those exec levels are not moved over to the products which are less tried and tested. And then you may say, hey, it's okay for me to have the rest of the organization just 2 months behind. So you might say I'm in June and April is the time frame where I want rest of my organization to be in. And then the June branch has just come in. That is only in my test lab. That once I'm certified it, once I have built confidence on it, I will roll out to the non-critical groups. So that's how it is slightly different and a lighter, more simpler model than the on-prem. So that's something that is easier for you to manage. This is quick screenshots of the version management. In the first screen, you see the various branches based on month outlook, the products that were released month over month on the SaaS platform. And subsequently, you're creating a deployment task for you to be able to deploy it to the right place. Then moving over to the XConsole evolution. Now, we are at a journey that has happened over decades with EPO, but it was not just EPO, there were other things that were happening. Let's look at what happened for us to think of XConsole. Now, when we did the EPO SaaS, a parallel time frame, we also had announced EDR, and EDR became its own console. It was a product which required newer technologies, which was slightly more difficult for EPO to quickly bring up. So we kind of brought up EDR. Then came on Envision Insights, which was provided on EPO on-prem, also on the EPO SaaS, but it was built again on newer frameworks of UI. So if you already have the EPO on-prem or the SaaS with Insights, when you switch to Insights within the EPO console, you will feel that the UI technology is different, and it is definitely giving you a feel of a different console. So that's how that is. If you notice what I'm doing here, I'm actually coming to the point of Megha that she brought out in the first slide, where there is a proliferation of technologies, and it further got more aggravated with newer things, like we announced XDR in 2021. It remained preview because there were other things that happened, like bringing together of FireEye and the FireEye technologies. There was an XDR story there also. And actually, the story became a lot bigger for us from an XDR, much stronger for us, which would help us helped us retain get the leading position in XDR thought process that we have as of today. So we did understand that there is a problem that we have created in 2020 itself. We created a SKU which was giving a unified solution across the SaaS technologies, which basically said that, hey, if you have the SKU, you have all these technologies. But from a product experience perspective, we were still at a place where the experience was divergent. There were products like EDR and Insights, which were built over newer UI technologies, whereas EPO was still a little behind on the technology. It's not just about UI technologies. Even from an experience perspective, the information architecture, the terminologies on the product itself were divergent on these products. So you did not have a consistent experience itself, a consistent flow of information itself when we were looking at these products. And the problem got further compounded if we were thinking of the Helix set of products and further FireEye products that are to come in with the evolution of XConsole. And that led us to bring XConsole. Now, we are not just talking about what we have gone through within the journey of Trellix, but the thought process of XConsole is obviously a broader one where we will also simplify the dimensions of third parties integrating with Trellix technologies. So XConsole is to bring all these technologies together from a UI perspective, from a user experience perspective, from an information architecture perspective, and also build a baseline technology over which the next gen technologies like XDR will be built on. So that is the reason that we are going through XConsole evolution. What does it mean for EPO? That's the question that comes to your mind. So EPO essentially will get merged into XConsole. There is no trimming of EPO capabilities. It completely gets unified into XConsole. And this journey is starting as early as late March or early April is when you will see the first change in the look and feel of EPO on its own. Now, like I was explaining, our core centered focus now is on XDR. So you have proven products like EPO, Helix, and EDR. These products coming together, giving a convergence to give XDR capability, where you have management capabilities, which are largely coming from EPO. And then you have investigation capabilities, which will come from technologies which are from Helix and EDR. So we will cherry pick these technologies, create a newer framework from an investigation and correlations perspective also, giving us the ability to deliver a really powerful XDR solution, which spans across the response, the threat intel, the investigative flows, and the guided investigations, and also policy management, which is the core strength of EPO. So it is basically fusing together of all the technologies that we have, get everything that we have. Believe me, these products had their strengths, which are not overlapping. So we are not going to lose technologies, capabilities when we fuse these, but we are going to get a greater set. Now, let's look at further level with more clarity of EPO. What is it that EPO evolves in XConsole with? So we had the deployment and policy management framework across ENS, encryption, and data protection product sets of the McAfee world. Now we actually evolve it further with getting more of the McAfee world technologies, which anyway was an ongoing journey for us, but also bring in things which are coming from the FireEye world, like the strength of forensics. So that is a dimension that EPO will add on. Then policy framework, it is quite a big strength for EPO, is something that we always felt was not an intuitive flow. It was product centered. You were seeing policy in product groupings, which means that if you were changing, say, a dimension from the protection perspective in context of firewalls, then you needed to do multiple policy edits in DLP, in endpoint. So that required you to, swim through various policies which were grouped across products. Now, what we want to do is make it more intuitive so that it is persona centered, or rather functional centered. You see the firewall related policies in one place. So you can actually say, hey, I'm right now looking at strengthening my policies on that front. So let me do both data protection, ENS, and other products also in one single place. So that is the transformation that will happen. It's just reorienting the grouping of the policies and also the flow of the policy editing and the policy application to your endpoints in a more intuitive way. This is what we intend to evolve in XConsole frameworked EPO. Then global navigation and menu unified with Helix and EDR in phase 1. This goes further ahead in next gen phases of XConsole, where we actually bring through a single unified global menu where you don't have to switch context. And that will be more clear when we have the quick demo of what is coming just now in the couple of months from now. Then the hybrid dimension I spoke about, it is something that we intend to evolve as we move along in the very later part of this year to early next year. Now, if there is any thought that your capabilities will get reduced, there is no reduction in your entitlements, there is no capability which is going on, there will also be no effort needed by you to adopt XConsole. You will just see EPO evolving. Let me put it like this. If you have entitlements which are only for products that are EPO centered, they do not have capabilities which are detection and response, either EDR or XDR capabilities, then what you will see is that EPO changing over time in its look and feel, in its intuitive flows, in making it more user-friendly from a user perspective, his persona perspective. That is the holistic change. You do not have to take any action at your end, apart from configuring the newer capability sets that will come in with the XConsole evolution. So that is how you should see how EPO will move ahead in this journey with XConsole. So that's on the journey. Now I'll show you a demo. This is a demo of the product which is coming, the product update, which is coming very soon in the next 2 months itself. And it is just the starting of XConsole. Here, only the UI elements are the ones that we have evolved. So yeah, basically, you log in through your own username password that you have on the stack as of today itself. Even if you were taking the newer products, you will continue to use the same things. And it lands into the newer look and feel of EPO. You also get to see the same menu, which is something that we call as contextual menu. You can look at the system tree. There is no change in the system tree apart from the look and feel. Again, this is just the starting point. Here is the console switcher where you can switch from EPO to EDR, and you can do the EDR monitoring and alerting right at the click of 2 buttons. There's no need for you to log in again. Similarly, you will be able to switch to XDR if you take on the XDR up leveling the product capabilities that come from XDR. Now, this is, like I said, just the starting, and the evolution will change. If you see that we had the light and dark mode switch, and this remains constant across products. Earlier, EDR had it at a different place, EPO did not have it. So those things are things that are going to evolve, and we are going to bring more and more UI elements together. Yeah, let me move over to the key takeaways from what we spoke about. So from a pure EPO perspective, the road ahead is long. The evolution with XConsole is large. We are bringing in more and more capabilities that come from FireEye world. We will also bring in more capabilities which will be needed for ensuring that the market relevance of the product is good, that we are leading, we continue to lead from a management console perspective with EPO. Other dimension obviously is that SaaS evolution has gone through a long journey, and in the next year or so, we will say it is pretty much on par with on-prem. If there are specific needs that were not being met, I would say please pay close attention to whatever capabilities are being delivered in 2023, and a lot of bigger capability sets will become on par with on-prem. Then the evolution of EPO under XConsole is going to be a great journey ahead. Now, I gave a brief overview of what is coming very soon. And like I said, we will have more and more changes as we move along, with updates coming over like monthly or alternate monthly, which will make you see how EPO is evolving and how we are bringing together the technologies that we have in the Trellix base itself, and over the time also the third party, to make it easier to use, and in that same breath to make it easier to adopt the XDR capabilities so that you can be winning in your environment, in your organization's protection needs. So that's all I had. And with that, we will switch over to the Q&A section. I will pass on this back to Nick for any closing comments that Nick has. Over to you, Nick.
Thanks, Mega and Hitesh. As a reminder for everyone, Trellix Education Services offers exceptional training to go along with our award-winning products. If you would like to learn more, please visit the website listed on your screen to see all of our offerings. Now let's get our Q&A session started. I see we have several questions, but it's not too late to add your question. Please type it in the Q&A window to submit. Additionally, take a moment to fill out the survey. Your feedback and suggestions are always appreciated.
We got a few questions around being able to do agent push deployments from EPO SaaS. Are you able to do an EPO or an agent push deployment from EPO SaaS, or do you require a third-party tool? Hitesh, did you get me on that one? I'll repeat the question. There were a few questions that came in around being able to. Oh.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
sorry,
sir.
I was on mute. I just realized that. So, yes, so this is a very common question that I do get from customers when they are moving to the SaaS world. This is something that, from an initial deployment perspective, is a problem that we understand. And yes, we will require third-party tools to be used for an initial deployment, or it has to be a manual install on the machine for the first install. Now, there is capabilities that these third-party do provide, which products like Microsoft Intune has, where you can actually have something that is embedded on the image, and when the first boot happens, it gets configured to connect to the right tenancy that you have on the SaaS platform. The core reason of not being able to do that is because there is the dimension of the configuration needing to be done for the endpoint to be connected to the right tenancy that is there in the SaaS world. So that is the core reason where we have the challenge. This question was asked by Sean. Thank you for asking that question. He had some brilliant ideas on that front, and we made a note of that those ideas, and we will brainstorm it with the team, engineering team, to see if those things can be taken forward. Thanks, Nick.
Got it. Okay, perfect. Thank you for that. We had a couple of questions that came in around using the EEDK packages with EPO SaaS. Is it possible to use the EEDK packages there?
So today it is not possible, but we have the intent to provide that on the SaaS world. The thing is that this is a capability which has been there on-prem for quite some time. The risks of it being provided on the SaaS is from the dimension of the security of what can get uploaded. So it's an open-ended technology from the binaries that can be uploaded for deployment. And we just want to be very cautious of what we do over here, not to basically the intent to not have something risky being done by mistake or by intent. So but having said that, we've definitely now changed our mind to provide this capability in a different way from a SaaS perspective. However, it will take some effort to build this capability. It's not going to be exactly same as on-prem. So it will require some infrastructure to be built from the hybrid dimension of what I spoke in the content. So that those capability sets have to be built for us to build this. So it will take some time for us to give that capability. But the intent is, yes, that we will go ahead and take this as a backlog item. It is already added to the backlog to be taken up at the very late part of this year, to be started at the very late part of this year.
Got it. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Hitesh. Will the client task deployments for products also be brought over to EPO SaaS?
Yes, that is also in plans. This is something that has been asked by multiple customers, something that we did not foresee will be required by many customers because there are other deployment methods, but we now understand that there is a pattern in which this is used by existing customers, so we intend to bring it to SaaS also.
Got it. Okay, perfect. Thank you for that. We had a few questions around licensing. It may be a little bit early to tell, but will the XConsole be available for all current customers with any kind of Trellix license, or will there be a special license required for the XConsole?
So XConsole will not require any special license. Our intent is to make it a pervasive capability, similar to how EPO was for certain products. XConsole will be something that will expand to all the Trellix products, SaaS products rather. So no, it will not be required. What you will see is that your existing capabilities will start transforming, and the products which are also coming on board on SaaS will start coming on board on the XConsole framework. So this is a journey that is starting, and we definitely intend to have a deeper discussion on this in a subsequent webinar. So there is an intent to have another webinar a couple of months down the lane to have a more focus on XConsole itself.
Got it. Okay, perfect. Thank you for that. Will the Trellix agent continue to be required on the client computer to work with the XConsole?
Yes. For now, the addition that comes on the Trellix agent, which is the forensics addition, comes into the agent. But having said that, the agent will itself transform into a unified client. So basically, there is a journey on that front too, which will evolve it significantly, making it lighter. That is the intent. And as of now, I think agent is the right word to use. But overall, when it transforms, we probably will be using unified client or some other terminology.
Got it. Okay, perfect. Thank you for that. Will the converged EPO SaaS XConsole offering be available for on-prem EPO instances?
So the converged EPO SaaS stack, I'm a little confused. So we are probably talking of XConsole again over here. XConsole is only a SaaS stack capability. This is not intended to be provided for on-prem. But having said that, as I spoke during the content, was that we intend to have the hybrid dimension for this particular capability set. By that, what I mean is that capabilities that are to be used from the SaaS world can be used with consuming data or giving responses basically consuming data that is there on the on-prem server, or giving responses to endpoints that are managed by on-prem. That is the long-term thought process. The hybrid strategy is something that we intend to evolve. It is something that we are right now in a very early stages of just a concept discussion.
Got it. Okay, perfect. Thank you for that. It looks like we have a few more specific questions. I think what we'll do is we'll collect the rest of the questions here and work to respond to these folks individually if we can after the webinar is over. Yeah, I think that's all the questions that we've got for now. I want to thank everybody for joining today's webinar, and a big thank you to our presenters, Hitesh and Megha. As a reminder, a link to today's recorded presentation will be emailed to all registered attendees. This concludes today's webinar. Stay safe, everyone.
Thank you.